All right, that guys doing. We hopping into Deuteronomy 15, maybe 16, depending on how we want this to go. You didn't, y'all know our glasses, right? Anyway, at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine brother with thine hand shall they release. Save when there shall be no poor among you, for the Lord shall greatly bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. Only if thou hearken unto the voice carefully unto the Lord thy God, to observe all these commandments which I command thee this day, for the Lord God blesses as he promised thee. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow, and thou shalt reign over many nations, but thou shalt not reign over thee. And if there be among you a poor man of thy brethren with any of the gates of the land of the Lord which thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, nor shut thine hand out from thy poor brother, but thou shalt open thine hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient need in that which he wanteth. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of the release, is at hand. Let thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest not. And he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be sin unto thee. And thou shalt surely give him, and thine heart shall not be grieved when thou givest to him, because that for this thing the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all the works and in all that thou puttest thine hand into. But for the poor they shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother, to thy poor, thy needy in the land, and thy brother a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, and in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free. When thou sendest them out of free from thee, thou shalt not go away empty handed. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy wine press, and out of there wherewith the Lord has blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord thy God redeemed thee, and therefore I command thee to this thing this day. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will go not away from thee, because he loves thee, in thine house, because he is well with thee, thou shalt take an owl, and thou shalt thrust it through the door, his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservants thou shalt do likewise. And it shall seem not hard unto thee, that when thou sendest him away from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant for thee, in serving 6 years, and the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou doest. And the firstling males that come of the herd of thy flock, that thou shalt sanctify to the Lord thy God, thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy bullock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. Thou shalt eat it before the Lord thy God year by year, in a place which the Lord shall choose, thou and thine household. And thou shalt eat it within the gates, and the unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike in the roebuck and as the hart. And only thou shalt eat not the blood thereafter, and thou shalt pour upon the ground as water. And then we go on to 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God, for in the month of Abib the Lord brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt by night. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God in the flock of the herb, in the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. Thou shalt eat no unleavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat the unleavened bread therewith, and even the bread of thy affliction. Thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life. There shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all the coast 7 days, neither shall there be anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest on the first day at even, and remain all night unto the morning. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of the gates which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at this place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there shalt thou sacrifice the Passover at even. At the going down of the sun at the season thou came forth out of the land of Egypt, and thou shalt roast and eat in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the morning and go into thy tents. And 6 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee, begin to number 7 weeks, for such a time that thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Thou shalt keep the feast of the weeks unto the Lord thy God, with a tribute of free will, offering thine hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according to the Lord thy God, as he has blessed thee. Thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou, thy son, thy daughter, thy maidservant, and the Levite which is thy in the gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there. And thou shalt remember that thou wert a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe to do these statutes, and thou shalt observe the feast of the tabernacle 7 days, and thou shalt have gathered corn in thy wine, and thou shalt rejoice in the feast, and thou and thy son, thy daughter, thy maidservant, manservant, and the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, which are within thy gates. 7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and all the works of thy hands. Therefore shalt thou surely rejoice. 3 times a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose. In the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of the tabernacle shall they not appear before the Lord thy God, and every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he giveth thee. And judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all the gates which the Lord thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and perverts the words of the judgment. And this is altogether which thou shalt follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God gives thee. Thou shalt not plant thee of groves of any tree near the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee, neither shalt thou set up any image which the Lord thy God hateth. That'll be all. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.